Hey, what's up? My name is PJ, and you are listening to the Music Photo Podcast, session number 9. Thank you very much for joining us for another episode of the Music Photo Podcast. My name is PJ. I'll be your host for today. You can find me on Twitter at PJPantelis. We are very lucky to be joined today by the fantastic Michelle Grace Hunder. Michelle is undisputedly the queen of Australian hip-hop photography. She has a book published, it's called Rise, and it has 182 different faces in it, pretty much documenting Australian hip-hop from start to finish. She's worked with some super big international names, including Raekwon the Chef, Pharoah Monch, Daniel Merriweather, ASAP Ferg, Anfa Jones, and just about every single Australian hip-hop artist that you can think of. You're going to want to stick around until the very end of this episode as we discuss topics such as working out of a studio space, funding and publishing a book, the most effective way to reach out and get jobs with new artists, and also the progression in editing styles that we all go through. I have to preface this session with a little bit of an apology. You might hear it in my voice. At the time of recording, I was feeling a little bit under the weather. I was a little bit croaky and a little bit nasally, but I think it's still very listenable. As always, the show notes can be found at bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. In the meantime, enjoy this session with Michelle Grace Hunder. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. What have you been working on so far today?
I literally just got into the studio, actually. I had a bit of a late start. Oh, I shouldn't say late start. Generally, I start about 11 a.m. You know how us creatives are. We tend to start a little bit later and finish a little bit later at night. So generally, I try and exercise in the morning and get in at about 11. So that's what I've been doing. Pretty cruisy so far.
Excellent. So you have your own studio space?
Yeah, I do. I've got my own studio space in North Melbourne. It's a shared space. There's probably maybe 8 or 9 creatives here. My space is actually awesome. It's up this little mezzanine, so you actually have to climb a ladder to get to my space, and it's so awesome. It's like, yeah, it's really cool. And there's a girl on the other side who's on the other mezzanine, so we can talk across mezzanines. Nice. And then everyone else is kind of below us. I shouldn't say below us, that sounds awful. On the ground.
On the ground level.
No, yeah, exactly. It's a really awesome space. I've been here 2.5 years now, and I absolutely love it. Love it. It's awesome. It's really good.
Do you think it's really important to separate your workspace and your creative space from your home life?
Yeah, 100%. When I first started doing photography kind of full-time as a business, I was working from home, and I found it you can't switch off, and you can't switch off not only from your own kind of creativity but from clients, and then you kind of set up a precedent that you become available to clients at any time, which I just think that's actually not a good thing. I think, you know, in every other professional aspect, you know, there are timeframes that you're available. It doesn't necessarily have to be 9 to 5, but, you know, there needs to be some time that's your time and your family's time. And I like to, you know, actually spend time with my husband. Having said that, his home office, he's got a home office, and he's hopeless. So okay. it wouldn't matter anyway. He's always working until midnight. Right. But I actually found when we weren't seeing each other at all. It's like I was working downstairs, he was working upstairs, and we kind of cross paths. At least now it's a little bit better. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I really like that. I used to a couple of years ago, I used to have my editing computer set up in my bedroom, and it's so easy to fall into that trap of just waking up, getting straight to it.
Yeah.
You work until late, and then you go to bed and you do it again. So
you don't have any you time. You don't just to unwind. You can obviously become really consumed in stuff you're doing, and I don't think it's overly healthy, like creative wise, just to be like immersed in something for that long. I do think you need breaks away, and I just like the fact that you kind of go somewhere. It also looks really professional for clients if you actually bring them to a space rather than your home. Not to say that, you know, it's a bad thing if you do, but I do find it does look a little bit more professional. So I found it really great, and this actual space is really awesome. The people are so great. I can't see myself moving from here anytime soon.
Excellent. I like it. Let's get into it a little bit. You are the the queen of Australian hip hop. Is that a fair title? Can I say that?
It's a term that gets thrown around a lot. I don't know if I yeah, I kind of shy away from that a little bit, but I guess I'm female and I'm pretty well known within the Australian hip hop scene. So
Yep.
yeah, well, yeah, I get really embarrassed when that kind of term's put out there. But yeah,
You can let me say that. You don't have to say it yourself. I'll say it for you.
you can say it. You can say it. Yeah, it's something I hear quite a lot. So.
Okay, cool. So, what does the hip hop scene look like on a local level in terms of like unsigned and yeah, sort of like grassroots emerging artists?
Oh, that's a great question. I think, I mean, there's a lot of really, really talented hip hop artists that are unsigned or, independent, even actually artists that are still doing really well. Someone like Remy, for example, is not signed, and, obviously killing it. But I think there's such an array of really amazing, talented artists and that people are starting to appreciate more and more, which is really great.
Yep.
Kind of when I started shooting maybe kind of 4 or 5 years ago, I wasn't aware of the talent, that's for sure. And now that I've really immersed myself in it, that was kind of part of the passion of really starting to document hip hop, was that I just felt like it wasn't being covered or wasn't getting the recognition that it deserved. So
Right.
I kind of really threw myself into it, and that was one of the main reasons of really starting to shoot. Just to highlight the fact that I think there's still a little bit of a stigma attached to Australian hip hop, and which I think is bullshit. And time that it's well and truly shook that. And the young artists now that are doing really amazing stuff, it kind of just really shows that that's kind of an old mind frame, and everyone should kind of move forward and get with the program, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you spend much time shooting the smaller shows, or did you come into it with some connections? Maybe on a touring sort of level.
No, I definitely started, super, super grassroots level. The only connection I had to the Australian hip hop scene was Briggs. I'm from Shepparton originally, so he was literally the only person that I knew when I first started. So one of the first gigs I shot he was supporting the Hilltop Hoods. So it was a larger gig, which was, a really, really amazing experience. But yeah, most of the gigs I shot, at least for the first kind of 1 or 2 years, were super, super low key. I was usually the only photographer. I would be in a terrible venue with terrible lighting, and
Yeah, I feel that.
yeah, yeah. But it's great. I mean, as a photographer, to learn how to shoot live gigs in that type of environment where it's really tricky that's the best practice you can get, because I kind of, the larger scale gigs you get, the more or the better the light is, I guess, and it's a lot easier to shoot, that's for sure. So to start with those really, there might be one spotlight sometimes or something like, but yeah, I was really lucky that people just responded to my work really quickly. There weren't a lot of people that were really focused on the scene, so there were there's definitely a few that have been around for a little while, but certainly not like you see in other genres. So artists really responded to my work and were just really welcoming, and I guess I found that I was shooting bigger gigs within the scene quite quickly. So yeah, which was good.
Okay, excellent. Do you think it's really important? I'm not sure how far into your journey that you moved to Melbourne. Do you think it's really important someone from outside of a major city to move towards a creative hub like Melbourne, or do you think you could have done the same sort of thing if you stayed in Shepparton?
Oh God, no. I've been in Melbourne for a long time, so
Okay.
well before I was a photographer as well. I just think just generally in life, a lot of things are happening outside the country towns, and not to say that you can't do stuff in country towns, because obviously you can, but there's just you just surround yourself with creatives that are doing, that think the same way as you, and are doing really amazing things creatively, and you just, I don't know, you kind of get swept up in that, and just surround yourself with like-minded people. I think also with the internet, it's obviously easier, if you were in a more remote town. But I definitely think once you come to the city and you surround yourself with the best of the best, it only makes you better as well. It just makes you really strive to, so your work, strive for your work to be the best in every instance when you're surrounded by people who are just awesome. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, that would be my advice. If you can get to a city.
Okay, I like it. There's a saying that I really like in business, and it's that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I can imagine if you're from somewhere rural, Shepparton or otherwise, that if there's not too much of a creative scene, there's no reason to push yourself, or there's no one to push you. Does that a fair thing to say?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair thing to say. And also, you're sometimes not even aware of what else is out there. Like it can be a little bit of a bubble, and some people are really content with that, and that's totally fine. I just know from a really, really young age, kind of I was going to be getting out of that town as soon as I always saw my life to be quite big. Even now, I still see like it to be so much bigger than it is. So it's funny that just always striving to be the best, like literally the best. So if it's not the best in the genre, the best in Australia, and then the best internationally. So I think it's everyone's got different goals, so it totally depends on where you see yourself. But for me personally, it was always about being as well known and respected, and kind of achieving the most that I possibly could as possible.
I really appreciate that. There's been a bit of a recurring theme lately in my life, and it's that I see people and talk to people that I grew up with, I went to high school with, and the difference between them and my sort of creative friends who are trying to shake things up a bit is I just feel like so many people just have this lack of ambition, whereas all my creative friends, they're always looking for that next level. They're always looking for what they can do to take the step up and make their passion a career, or at least a stream of income. So I appreciate what you're saying, and that really resonates with me.
I was just going to say, I just think also with you're a bit younger than me, so with your generation, you definitely see a lot more of that. In kind of people my age, it just like you're meant to get a job, you're meant to do 9 to 5 and get the house and the kids and like that's the ambition. Whereas for me, I've always been career driven. Even when I wasn't doing photography, I've worked in sports marketing, I've worked in event management, and
Okay.
I've always been really, really career driven and to do just exciting stuff. Like I just think, God, once you're aware of what you're actually capable of, and you start meeting really amazing people and surrounding yourself with like some of your idols and stuff, you're just like, what, it's just on another scale. So I just don't think the small town kind of mentality was ever for me. But again, like my parents still live in Shepparton, and that they've always lived that kind of life, so there's obviously nothing bad about that. It's just I've always seen my life to be bigger than that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Have you ever had a pivotal moment or a relationship that's sort of like taken you up to the next level?
Oh, that's a good question. No, like nothing that I can really think of. I think there's been a lot of kind of steps towards little things. I definitely think in terms of different levels, certain shoots I've felt have definitely helped progress my career really quickly. Like you see, you just get, I guess, a little bit more respect, and people take you a little bit more seriously as soon as you kind of work with more well-known artists.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think in that regard, there's been a few kind of key moments where I've gone, okay, and then it's someone else, and then it's someone else, and that for me is always the goal. It's like kind of the more well-known the person, you get a little bit more industry respect, and it makes it easier for other contexts or other artists of that same caliber to work with you, because they're like, oh, you worked with Raekwon, or you worked with Pharoah Monch, or whatever. It's like you kind of get that instant credibility, which is awesome.
Okay, so in terms of starting that domino effect, You mentioned Raycorn and Pheromone. How do you go from a country girl from Shepparton to working with international? You know, those are some big names in hip hop. How does that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I sometimes don't even know myself. I think it all started, like the first kind of bigger shoot that I can remember that I did was, well, there's kind of two. One was with N for Jones, who's he was the lead of 1200 Techniques, which is a hugely influential group for me in terms of listening to Australian hip hop, or hip hop that comes from this country anyway. And I approached him a few years back, and first of all, I was just blown away that he said yes. And then he was actually quite instrumental with me meeting some other people. So that kind of helped with a kind of introduction to other people within the Australian hip hop scene. And the other one was Daniel Merriweather, again, super early in my shooting career.
Yeah, right.
I think I shot a gig of his, and he saw some photos and he actually added me on Facebook. And I was like, whoa, what?
Wow.
Like, I was such a huge Daniel Merriweather fan. Like I can't even tell you, like, I saw him support Kanye, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, and I was following his career, and I was just such a huge fan. Like, loved all the stuff he did with Mark Ronson, and when he added me on Facebook, I'm like, what? Like, I literally was just like, yeah, my heart was racing, and I'm like, oh my God, Daniel Merriweather just added me on Facebook.
Oh, that's
and then I was
amazing.
like, I'm just going to ask him if he wants to do a shoot. Like, you know, what the hell? Like, why not? Why not just ask him? And so I asked him, and I literally remember where I was when the message came through, and he's like, yep, I'm down. I was just like, what?
Fist pump.
The hell? So total fist pump. Like, I was just like, I was just almost shaking. Like, I was just so, yeah, he was like the biggest artist that I'd shot with at that stage. And I was such a huge fan. I was definitely the most nervous I've ever been, which is funny because we're actually quite good friends now. So but it was just so excited, and the shots turned out so great, and like, I still love those photos. So and it was a funny one because he was actually quite a few hours late to the shoot, and I just literally nearly ran out of light. So I was like, I think it was a 4:00 shoot, and he might have turned up around 6. He had a few issues. Can't remember exactly what it was, but he was running a bit late, and I was just running out of light. I'm a natural light shooter in most instances with my portraiture, and
okay.
I was running out of light, and then I think I had about half an hour, and I was just, there was one particular shot I really wanted to nail, which I got, and it was actually the shot that's in the book, Rise, which is awesome. But yeah, there's been a couple of instances like that where it's just, you know, you're shooting with someone and they're a little bit late, and then it's like, I've got no light. The same thing actually happened with Raekwon, which is a whole nother story. But yeah, it can be very nerve-wracking.
I've not done too much work with the, you know, upper level artists with labels and publicists and stuff, but the couple of jobs that I have done, it does seem like you are just the absolute last piece in the puzzle. It's like everything else has got to fit in first before you come into it. And yeah, it just seems like, you know, sometimes you're lucky to get 5 minutes. So those big jobs, like to pull them off, it's so much more than just the technical skills. Like, it's almost like some mind games go into it as well.
Oh, that is so true. And I think that's something that I've learned to be really, really good at, is work in terrible conditions with not a lot of time, which because it just happens so often that either they're running late or something happens, or, you know, it's completely, the light's terrible or something, you just have to adapt. And I think when, you know, through the process of shooting for my book, where I would literally rock up to someone's house, or I'd rock up to a studio, and there was no pre-planning. It was all like 90% of the time, 99% of the time was no pre-planning. So it really honed in on my skills to be able to work with anything and make anything work. Like some of my favorite shots in the book, like the Bliss and Esso shot, I literally had 10 minutes with those guys. So yeah, and again, like Dan was, you know, maybe half an hour. I think the Hoods was maybe half an hour or 20 minutes, if that. Like, just, you know, you've got to get a shot that's worthy of a publication that's, you know, that everyone's going to see, and you've got to get it in, you know, 10 minutes. So, Yeah. And now I'm really comfortable in that environment. Now I can rock up anywhere. Like I think kind of this time last year I shot ASAP Ferg, and I literally like I had 5 minutes. And again, some of my favorite photos, it's like if you're thrown into a situation, just kind of make it work. And now I actually find myself way more comfortable in that rather than something that I need to plan. I get more anxious about pre-planning. It's weird, but yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of that thing of if you have too much time to think about it, your mind just runs wild with all the things that can go wrong. Whereas in those situations where it's really fight or flight, that's where you grow, and that's where you can potentially make some of your best work.
100%. I think, well, definitely in my situation, I've found that, and I really seem to thrive in those situations. And yeah, I've definitely found that some of my best work has come under just complete pressure and yeah. I also I find I'm not, what's the word? I don't know. I don't visualize shoots in advance, and I'm not overly creative or overly, thinking of these amazing shoots. Like I actually really love just spending time with the person one-on-one and getting really amazing portraits, rather than, too much preconceived conceptual stuff, which is something that I'm working on. I actually want to do more conceptual work, but I really like the kind of one-on-one shoots that you get with an artist where you really kind of see the essence of them. I think definitely some of my favorite portraits are those where you literally see that they let their guard down. You can see it in their eyes. The moment that happens, it's just, and if you can capture that, that's priceless, that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm usually aiming for. Although, like I said, this year I am trying to push myself and do more conceptual stuff that's a little bit more challenging.
Okay, excellent. So do you mean you don't sort of know what's going to come out of a shoot until you get there and you feel the vibe and the environment and the person? You can't plan it until you're there. Is that sort of what you mean?
Yeah, that's usually how I work now.
Okay.
Like I said, 90% of the shoots for Rise were that. And I know it threw a lot of people. They're like, "So what are you planning?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm planning nothing." So that would be like, what? But I really just wanted to see the space and get a vibe of, and to see the light and how the light's falling and what will work and shoot a few different setups. But yeah, like I said, this year I'm really trying to change that a little bit. Not 100%, because I'll still, most of the press shots and stuff that I'll shoot will still be like that. But for a bigger project that I'm working on now, I'm trying to be a little bit more conceptual and think, okay, how would we like to represent this person? Let's think of costuming, let's think of location, let's put a little bit more thought into it. So yeah, that's what I'm just kind of pushing myself this year. And I've done a couple of really great ones like that, but it's definitely not what I feel most comfortable doing, that's for sure. I definitely feel more comfortable working on the fly and just making it work, which is, I think, quite weird, but yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I've done a bit of research and I've been looking and loving your website and going through all the Rise stuff, and I've got plenty of stuff to ask you about that later. But do you feel that possibly shooting in that way is the reason that the portraits from Rise look so organic and natural, and they feel so personal? Do you think that's because of the way that you shoot them like that?
Yeah, thank you for that compliment, because that's really lovely, and it's actually something that's come up a lot, is that people find them very personal and very representative of that artist, which is amazing, and that's really what I did strive for. But part of my creative process is making friends with the person, which is, I think, probably a little bit unusual. It's not all photographers. Sometimes it's quite the opposite. But I really feel like there's an element of trust in portraiture, and that person needs to trust that you'll represent them in the best way, and just be really comfortable. So often, the first hour of the shoot's just chatting or going for a walk, or just, if time permits, just really getting to know the person on a personal level, and just letting them, just feel comfortable and ease into it. And Yeah, that's the, like, I really like connecting with people. I think that's what's really drawn me to portraiture and why I love it so much. Is I'm definitely a people person, and I love getting energy from other people. And yeah, that's definitely my favorite part of doing what I do. And yeah, and I do feel like if I'm not friends with the person at the end of the shoot, that I wouldn't have got the best out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, that's excellent. I mean, I would say that the majority of people find that the hardest part to connect and to make someone feel comfortable and trusting of you, because it's, when you think about it, a pretty unnatural situation to meet someone and have them stare down your lens for half an hour, or however long it goes for. So I would think if that's your skill, if that's your favorite part of the shoot, then that's you're doing okay there. I think that's the hardest part to learn.
Yeah, I think it's something that's really hard to teach as well. It's either you've either kind of got that natural personal skills or you don't.
Yeah.
So I think for me, because I had that already, I kind of took it into photography. And I like being a likable person that's easy to get along with, that can make people feel really relaxed and get the most out of the portraits that you shoot. And I think, like, all the favorite portraits of mine, I feel like you can see that connection, like you can really see it in people's eyes, and that's what I love about shooting portraiture.
Excellent. Do you shoot a lot of live shows as well? Do you prefer the portraits, or is it the sort of deal where the live shows are your passion and the portraits help to fund that?
Good question. I live to shoot live shows. They're just amazing, the energy that you feel. I think not only just kind of when you're in the front row, like literally in the front row, but once you start kind of getting on board with artists doing tours and bigger shows, and they let you on stage, it's, for me, like pretty much the biggest honor that you can have as a music photographer, that an artist has allowed you in that space. I find that space quite sacred, and they really don't allow many people, and like I never take that for granted. And I'm often kind of on the side of stage going, this is incredible, like what I get to do is actually incredible. And to capture those moments in time, like it's literally what drives me. So if I couldn't shoot live shows, I think I would be I'd be a bit devastated. But yeah, like I love portraiture just as much as that, but I think there's nothing that can really compare to the energy that you feel, because you feel the crowd's energy, and it's it's pretty amazing. And like I said, I don't take that for granted. I'm very aware of that space, and I really try to be as unseen as possible on stage. I'm certainly not one of those photographers that runs and shoots from the middle of the stage or anything like that. Yeah. I try to keep hidden, but to get that, I guess, get as much of the energy as possible. I think the only time that probably would have varied a little bit was on the tour with Seth recently, when you're literally shooting, I think we shot 12 or 13 shows, and the element of trust has gone to the next level then, where, he knows, Seth knew that I would never get in his way, but because I knew the show so well, there were certainly times where I could probably pop out a little bit more than I would generally on a show that I didn't know as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
You get some pretty cool shots in that.
Yeah, well, also, if you're doing a run of, 12, 13 shows, did you say, then obviously you need to find a way to reinvent it. You can't just shoot from the same, you can't just shoot from the pit every night and get the same photos over and over.
Yeah, that's 100%. Like I really tried, once I knew the show, after the first couple of nights, I'd actually, talk to the guys and go, right, let's focus on what can we get this night that I've missed. Like there was a time where in a certain song, Sizzle would like spit water out. So I was like, okay, let's get the water spit tonight. Or
okay, yeah.
There's another time where Sizzle would do like a double water, like with 2 water bottles. And I didn't get that, I think, until like the last show. I could never get the double water one. I just kept missing it. Yeah. But I finally got it, like, which was really awesome. But like, yeah, there was crowd surfing, and there was just shooting from different angles so that each show looks a little bit different. So it definitely was a challenge, especially towards the end. But I really tried. I was moving a lot and really trying I guess capture the energy of each show, and do it justice in that way, but shoot from different angles as well.
So once you get to know a show like that, and obviously you've shot it a couple of nights, you learn the set list and you learn what happens, do you sort of write your own set list and pick up those things that you need to catch and make a mental note of it, or possibly even a real note, or how do you remember those things?
It was just a mental note. That's why I think I missed it a couple of times. I was like, oh, that's the song, and I was like,
that's the one.
And then but so it was just mental notes, and because there were so many shows, eventually I kind of captured everything. The probably logical thing to do would have been write that down, but I was kind of working on the fly as I do a little bit more, and I know you always kind of get distracted by something else happening as well. So, but yeah, it was an amazing experience. I really hope to be doing some more kind of tour documenting, because not only just for the shows, but the behind the scenes stuff is what I just have such a huge passion for and really love. Just to give that, I guess, insight into what it's like to be on the road. If I can be shooting more of that, then I'll be very, very happy.
Okay, excellent. That feeds your soul, that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah, it really does. Like, and just the comments that I was getting, especially from the behind the scenes stuff, is, again, it's that element of trust. It's like those guys have let me in a really personal space that only a few people are allowed into. It's like the tour party. And, you know, again, you never take that stuff for granted. And I'm always really appreciative to be in that situation. And, you know, the guys are really open in pretty much letting me in every situation and documenting everything. So you just get really, really great shots from that, I think. So, fingers crossed I can do some more of that stuff, because I really, really do love it.
Excellent. So was that the most recent? We're talking about the Seth Century tour. Was that the most recent one, like the last month or two?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the was kind of all of February and all of March, the weekends. So, that was the most recent tour that I've been on, I guess. There's been some other kind of bigger shows and stuff from international artists, but that's kind of the latest thing I've been doing.
Yeah. Have you done many other tours before the Seth Century one, or is it a goal of yours to make that part of your business?
That's my first official tour with an artist. I did my own tour, which was the launch for book. Rise, which doesn't really count, really. It's like my own tour. But yeah, no, that's definitely, that was one of the goals that I wrote at the start of the year, was to be going on tour with artists. And it's tricky in Australian hip hop. There's obviously not huge budgets like there are with other genres that people can afford to take a photographer on the road for that long. And I completely understand that as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, even hope to do it if it's a tour and, you know, maybe just the major cities or stuff like that. I'm really hoping to do a bit more of that. So hopefully people saw what I did with Seth and liked it, and yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay.
I'll get me on board.
Excellent. You mentioned before that you're mostly a natural light photographer. Do you shoot with strobes, or do you have a portrait lighting kit?
Oh God. Every time I try and shoot with strobes, it's so funny. I'll go, I'm going to shoot in the studio. I'm going to do some strobe stuff. I always end up turning everything off and having just like one light.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's nearly happened in every situation. I don't know. I just have this thing about one directional light, and it kind of, I guess that's because I've shot so much natural light stuff, and that's just a preference. Again, it's definitely a goal of mine, is to really push myself out and do more studio work and just more interesting stuff. But I love natural light portraiture. I just think playing with how the light falls in natural situations is really awesome and challenging and ever changing, and that sort of stuff. I find the challenge in that, I guess. Making kind of the outside world work. But yeah, it is something that I'm looking forward to doing a little bit more of this year.
Okay, excellent. Well, if you don't have a strobe kit, a portrait lighting kit that you travel with, does that mean you can be super light with the way you work and travel and tour?
Oh yeah, well no, I certainly wouldn't be taking a lighting kit on tour. I know, like Cole Bennett's, for example, who does a lot of the one day stuff and the stuff with the fundamentals. He does, and he's really great at it.
Yeah.
But and I've seen the kit that he takes. I've actually helped carrying some of it for him before. I'm like, dude, how do you carry this stuff? Like, and again, like I'm a chick and like I'm a bit older and like my back, like, come on, like I can't be taking too much. I need to travel light.
Right.
So yeah, no, for me it's more like the kit that I took on Seth's tour. I had just a kind of a little suitcase on wheels that you could like carry on size.
Yeah.
And it opened up and I had, I've got two D700, Nikon D700s, all my lenses, a flash, which I never use. And then basically most of the stuff that I shot was on a Fuji X100. So when you're talking about super light, I mean, all the behind the scenes stuff was shot on the Fuji. It's just so easy to take wherever we were going. The photos are great. Like, why would I be taking my huge Nikon D700 everywhere? It's not practical. Everyone can see that you're taking photos. With the Fuji, you can be so like sneaky. Like, I got some great shots. Like, there's one shot of Seth and Sizzle in a supermarket. They didn't even know that I was taking it. I kind of just stood back a little bit and pretended I was hovering, like looking for something. I took this shot where they were both standing the exact same way, talking to the checkout, like on either side. So this is like ridiculously symmetrical shot, but they had no idea that it was happening. So you can just be really conspicuous or inconspicuous and, travel light and just get great shots with something like the Fuji X100. So yeah, I'm a big rap for that. But yeah, all the live gig stuff I always shoot with two cameras. Usually I kind of change it a bit for Seth's tour, but usually I'll go a 35-85, but I've actually found now I'm liking the 28, the fixed 28.
Yeah.
It just seems to be that little bit wider and just awesome. So lately I've been shooting everything on the 28 and the 85, which is the 85 I just love. It's just amazing. So I've really steered away from using the 70-200. It's just, unless it's a huge gig and you need to because you're kind of miles away.
Yeah.
It's heavy and just not as sharp as my 85. So
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I've got the X100S and I traveled with it for a few weeks recently. I did a month in Asia, and I have to say, like, it just makes photography fun again to use a small camera like that, because even in just a social situation where if I was to have my SLR, everyone just shies away, whereas it's sort of like everyone wants to jump in the photos with the little camera because they're like, hey, this is fun, like we're going to see the photos later.
That's such a good point. And I think a really good point about when you're shooting people as well, because people do shy away from cameras. If you've got this huge thing that looks all professional and like they immediately like kind of recoil, but if you've got something little and fun, people definitely want to jump in it and be part of it. And I think it looks less serious, so people are naturally they don't have their guard up as much, which is great because it's totally professional and the shots are amazing, but they don't need to know that.
Yeah, the raw files are beautiful from those cameras.
They are just amazing. Like once I found the grades that I was really digging, I was just loving it, absolutely loving it.
Yeah, nice. Do you find even though the fixed focal length is kind of limiting, do you find it's kind of in a way, it's like refreshing. It kind of like sets you free a little bit to not have to worry about changing lenses, and you could be doing something else, and to just have the one focal length, one lens, one body. Do you find that kind of refreshing?
Yeah, totally. I'm all about fixed lenses. I think a really good friend of mine, Ollie Sanson, who's an amazing photographer. If you don't know his work, look it up. He's just brilliant, like breathtakingly brilliant. Really good mate of mine, but we used to shoot weddings together when we first kind of both started, and he was always banging on about fixed and just like how much crisper they were. And it took me a little while. Once I was on, like you have to move more, which I totally don't mind. I think it just makes up for it with just how clean and crisp those shots are. So much prefer a fix myself. And it's definitely with the Fuji, it just again you just move around a little bit more and
feet zoom, right?
Feet zoom, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Okay, cool. So I come from a background of shooting heavy bands or rock and roll bands or whatever you like to call them, but usually with what I do, there's like, let's say 4 to 7 band members. So it means they kind of, between them, like the smaller bands, they can come up with a budget to fund photos and videos. Does that become a problem with hip hop when it's usually a solo artist or maybe a small group?
Yes. Yeah, no, it's pretty tricky with Australian hip hop. Most of the stuff is unpaid. Now it's a little bit better.
Yep.
And I don't really shoot a lot of the grassroots stuff anymore. So I would say, 90% of what I'm shooting now is paid. It's not like huge, but it's like, it's something, and I'm happy to do it because usually the guys are my friends and I love it. I love going along to the gigs. So, you're certainly not in hip hop music photography to be making money, but yeah, again, like, you do it because you love it and you're passionate about, documenting that moment in time, and if you can get a little bit of cash on the side, that's a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. Are promos or press shots, are they a big thing in hip hop at this
Yeah.
stage? Or
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, pretty much for me, my bread and butter is press shots for artists.
yep.
So I shoot a lot of that. I really enjoy shooting it as well. Like, I think it's fun, and I can get a lot done in a short amount of time. So I make my packages really affordable, and shoot around for an hour or so, and they get as much content as possible, to use across various mediums. So yeah, I really enjoy that. Actually, I really enjoy shooting press shots. So that, and I guess weddings, which I don't love, but kind of nothing else you can do in music certainly pays like a wedding. So if you do a few a year, and I'm really picky with the weddings that I shoot as well, and make sure they're great couples, and it makes it a little bit more enjoyable. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. So do you do, you mentioned weddings. Do you do other stuff, much stuff outside of music to, to help your business along? Obviously the music stuff is what you love. It's what you're really passionate about, but it's not always the best way to pay the bills. What other photography jobs do you do?
I do a lot of fashion campaigns, like mainly
Okay.
streetwear. So I've been shooting for Zoo York for the last 4 years. Santa Cruz now, which are like, they're actually in the same house, like label house.
Yeah, cool.
And I actually shoot another label in that house, which is a kids wear range. So that I've shot, for New Balance and New Era. Like, I guess my style lends itself to streetwear, so I shoot a lot of streetwear stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, it varies. Like, I kind of will take any job that I feel that I can do. Like, if it's something that I just go, look, that's just not, what I do. I don't like parties, for example. Like,
Yeah, socials.
So I hate socials. Actually, the next 3 nights I'm shooting socials, which will be great. But it's just part of a gig that I've got, is
Okay.
shooting socials as well, which
Yeah,
I generally don't do, but it was like, okay, I'll do it. I'm not a big fan of that, but I've shot corporate stuff, for example. Going into, I shot a kind of a meeting the other day where they were just, I can't remember, they were discussing some software stuff, and I just shot some stuff for a pamphlet. It totally depends. Like, every day is different. I just shot a huge hip hop dance festival on the weekend, which was very taxing on my body, but it was awesome fun. I shot 5,000 photos. I can't even believe that you
Wow.
can shoot 5,000 photos, but these dance crews, I think there was like 30 or so dance crews, and you have 2 minutes to shoot, like, not only kind of capture the essence of their actual routine, but try and get them all individually. And some of them were like, I don't know, there might be 12 people. It was so grueling. Like, by the end of it, I couldn't move the next day. I was so sore. But it was amazing, and I got some really great shots, which is good. But so yeah, every day is different. I think that's what I like about this career so much, and why I can't see myself doing anything else now, is that every day is really varied. And in other careers that I had, I found myself really restless after a couple of years, and I was like, oh, done this, like, every day is the same.
Yeah.
I never really felt like I was a 9 to 5 person, and now I just feel like, I've definitely found my thing, and I wish I had found it earlier, but you do it. However it happens, and you just run with it and just trying to make the best of it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Your websites are quite heavily music based. Do you advertise and display those other sort of photos, or do you think it would detract from your music clients?
I've got a completely separate website for my weddings.
Okay.
I keep them really separate. Having said that, I get a lot of wedding work from my hip hop stuff, which
Is that right?
Yeah, which is kind of cool. And that's usually when it's a cooler wedding. It's like they really like my stuff, and they want me to document their day.
Yeah.
My wedding work is, I'd say a bit, leaning towards more fashion sort of stuff, but it's still very wedding. Like, it has to be wedding. It's, you can't go too kind of left of center, I think, with weddings. But I still try and keep it a bit more individual. But the other stuff I don't really put on my websites. It's usually a referral. You get something, and as long as it's you say you can do it and they trust you, so that's good. But I haven't had any complaints yet, which is good.
Okay, so in terms of marketing and then looking for jobs, does that wedding part of your business, does that grow kind of organically? Does it just happen?
Yeah.
You mentioned like through some of your music clients and that sort of stuff, or do you actively sort of seek out jobs?
All referral based. Actually all my work, I don't really advertise anywhere other than social media.
Yep.
I don't spend any money on advertising anywhere else. It's at the moment, I've built my business up to a point where I really feel like the work-life balance is great. I could probably be working a bit more, but I think last year was such a ridiculously full-on year for me, and I almost burnt myself out trying to get the book done and the tour and all that sort of stuff. So this year I wanted to focus on shooting less, but challenging myself in those shoots more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so, fantastic.
Yeah. But I don't really, everything's kind of referral based, which is great. So, other wedding clients that I've shot will refer me, and then that means that I kind of get the same type of kind of cooler person.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's the dream.
That's the dream. Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Just give me 1 sec to compile my notes.
No worries.
Is there anyone that you look up to or admire that's maybe on the next level that you want to achieve?
I think Kane Hibbert's probably, like, in terms of music photographers, where a lot of us would like to see ourselves. Like, he seems to be, the majority of his work comes from music, which is kind of the dream. It's like you don't have to shoot anything else other than music, which would be great.
Yeah.
Shooting for great publications, shooting really high profile artists, going on tour. Like, that's kind of the dream. There's not that many people I can think that are doing that in music photography. So I can't really think of many others that are just kind of shooting music anymore.
He's the first one that comes to mind.
He's obviously, everyone kind of would think of that. There's obviously heaps of people shooting music, but I can't think of many that are actually, just known for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, that's definitely my goal. The next project that I'm doing, which I can't really talk too much about, but it's, again, really heavily focused in music. And again, I do these side projects, which Rise was a side project, really to increase my profile within that particular genre or whatever. So people, you get to work with artists, and then hopefully, you get to work with them again if they want press shots or whatever. That's certainly what happened with Rise. So hopefully that happens with this next project, which is actually not just hip-hop based, it's across all genres. So, I'm really excited about that, and just, hopefully working with more publications and more record labels, because a lot of my work actually comes direct from artists. I do work with publications, I do work with record labels, but heaps of my work just still comes direct from artists. And again, I think it's because of the relationships that I build during the shoot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool. But it'd be great just to, a record label kind of, be the go-to person or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, you've mentioned You've mentioned Rise a couple of times, and I've been really wanting to ask you about it. So
Yeah.
for anyone that doesn't know, you have a book published. It's called Rise, and it's basically a definitive guide to Australian hip hop. Is that a fair way to describe it? It's like,
Yeah, it's pretty close to being definitive. It's a few people I missed, but yeah, no, I think 182 different faces in there across Australia. So yeah,
wow. Okay,
pretty
yeah.
comprehensive.
That's fairly comprehensive if you ask me.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
comprehensive.
what did the campaign or launch sequence look like for this?
There's two campaigns for Rise. So the initial campaign, I did a possible campaign to raise the funds to self-publish the book. So
Yep.
originally when I decided I wanted to do a book, and I told everyone I was going to do a book like kind of within the scene, I didn't actually know what that meant or how much it was going to cost.
Right.
So when I started doing research, I was like, what do you mean it costs 20 grand? Like, I don't have 20 grand. Like,
Wow.
where am I going to come up with $20,000? This is ridiculous. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd seen a few friends that had done work within the music scene that had done possible campaigns. So I was like, oh, that could be a good way. And I had got on board a project partner, Nate Flagrant, who's a really well-known person within the Australian hip-hop scene. He's been a DJ for years. He also manages M Phases. So I went to him with the project idea and said, look, this is what I want to do. And he kind of came on board as just to kind of help me facilitate some of the logistics. So yeah, we decided to do a possible campaign to raise, I think the goal was 17,000 at the time. So like, I was terrified. Like, that's
a fair whack.
It's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
I didn't know if anyone was going to be interested. Like, I didn't, like, you're kind of putting your reputation online, because what if you put the possible campaign out and like 2 people like pledge, and then anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, you have nightmares about that sort of stuff. But it was so overwhelmingly successful, really hugely supported by the artists. Like, you know, the first hour we made $1,000. So I just, in the first, like, I kind of relaxed after that. I was like, okay, like, everyone was posting about it. All the guys got, you know, really on board with it. We met our goal with, you know, heaps of time to spare. We also did a fundraising gig, which was at the Corner Hotel. Originally the gig was kind of like, oh, if we don't raise enough money from the possible, this will give us a little bit more cash. Just in case we need to top up, like, you know, maybe we need a few extra grand or something. So just to make sure we got all of that money for the book printing.
Yeah.
So we did a gig at the Corner Hotel, which I think was about 15 people shy of selling out. It was super, super close to selling out. That Seth Century headlined, which was friggin' amazing. And like, I didn't even know Seth that well then, and he agreed to come on board, which was just amazing. And
how good is that?
So good. He's such a legend. And my really, really close friends like Grey Ghost and Mantra and Remy and Briggs. Who else performed that night? Dielectrics, who I also didn't know that well. He's such a legend. Dylan Joel, M Phases. Oh no, Phases couldn't make it in the end. We ended up DJ Ism came on board for Phases.
Okay, cool.
Phases had to do something else. And yeah, Sensible J, who is Remy's producer, DJ. And Miss Risk and Mules as well. So it was like it was a huge lineup.
Cool lineup.
In terms of like Australian hip hop, it was a pretty big lineup. Like, people were seeing it and going, what? It was like a mini festival almost. So it was pretty
sounds
cool.
like it. They
had super short sets, so everyone kind of did about 20, 25-minute sets. But it worked really well. Like, they all kind of rolled into each other, and it was a highlight of my life. Such a great.
That's so good.
Oh, and Enfa Jones like hosted it, which mind blowing. Again, it's kind of that full circle thing. Like, you know, I used to be such a fan, and then, you know, they end up hosting a night. But it's quite amazing. So yeah, that was the first campaign, and then once the book was produced, we did a launch tour with a really similar lineup actually. With Mantra, Grey Ghost, Briggs, Remy, Dylan Joel, JT came on board for that one, and Flago was on that as well. I think that was it. Oh, and Mistress of Ceremony as well, who's awesome. Female MC, she's so rad. So that was our kind of launch tour. So we did a gig in every state and a couple of regionals. Basically, it was to promote the book and kind of launch it and say this is what we've done, and I really wanted to support it with the show, with my mates that have supported me through the whole process. Like those guys are my best friends and are so supportive of my work and really awesome. And it was a way for me to give back to them too. It's like, I can pay you to come on tour with me. This is so awesome.
Yeah, how
So
cool.
yeah, it was really, really cool. It was such an amazing experience. So, and again, like, I don't know how many photographers have been on, like tour and done a gig and stuff like that. So for me, it was kind of pushing the envelope of what we can do and what's possible. And yeah. So it's definitely a highlight for me, that's for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, from my perspective, I know that I was well aware of the book and your work, a long time before I knew you. I've followed Mantra since the Illzilla days, and I've loved Grey Ghost since the Melodics. So I remember those guys were really pushing it, and I could tell that they were passionate about it and really wanted it to succeed. So that just sounds like a fantastic experience, and the fact that you got to tour with it, that just must have been the cherry on top.
Oh, 100%. Like, and yeah, I completely agree with you. And again, I think it goes back to, that creative process where I like legitimately want to make friends with these people. Like it helps with everything like that. How do you repay someone for, promoting something that you've worked on for 2 years? Like they're just awesome dudes. And like I said, really, really supportive of my work and yeah, just forever grateful. They're just awesome, awesome people. Like literally, favorite people on the planet. Love them to bits.
Fantastic. I believe it took a couple of years to put together all the portraits for this book.
Yeah, it was a 2-year process from start to finish. And the start was really not really a start because I didn't really know it was going to be a book. But from that first shoot, which was N for Jones, through to the last shoot, which was the Hilltop Hoods, was almost exactly 2 years. But funnily enough, a lot of the shoots I did probably in about 3 months. So once I'd probably done about maybe 40% of the shoots before the Possible campaign.
Yep.
And then once I knew that I had the money to go straight to print, and also that all these people had pledged for a product, I was just so like driven to give that product really quickly, because I hate having like people ask like, when's the book coming out? And I've pledged, and I'm like, okay, I need to get this to them as quickly as possible. So basically from December to March, I would have shot like, I don't even know, like maybe 80 shoots in that time.
Wow.
Like I was literally shooting, like I would go, like when I went to Perth, for example, I was shooting between 6 and 7 people a day.
That's huge.
And like, so I'd get in my car, I'd go meet someone, shoot for an hour, get in my car, like just, yeah, I was so driven to just getting it done. I look at it now and go, you're mental. Like who? And like, so I think I did 200 and I can't remember the number. I remember looking up the amount of shoots I did last year. It was like 280 or something.
Wow.
Something so stupid. Like who does that amount of shoots in 1 year? So that's why this year I've like just
taking a step back a little bit.
But yeah, it was so full on because I needed to get it done. And then the design process with Grey Ghost was probably 2 months. And then I had to wait another 2 months while it was being printed. So yeah, it was definitely a really long process. Really, I didn't know the amount of work that it would take to do a book, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Even when you think, you've proofed how many times and there's always something that you've missed and that sort of stuff. So yeah, you're looking at it 400 million times, but so rewarding and something that I'm immensely proud of. And for me, I felt like, this sounds really weird, but I felt like if I died tomorrow, I would actually be okay with it, because I feel like I've left something behind. And I definitely felt that after I got a phone call from the National Archive saying that they wanted to archive Rise, because
no way.
because they felt
Self-published.
self-published. They felt it was a significant contribution to the culture of hip hop, which for me,
A social document, right?
just absolutely mind-blowing. And like I said, I felt like, yeah, I can die now. I'm good. I've done my I've left my mark, and I really, I'm very, very, very proud of it. I look at some of the photos now and go, they probably could be better, but again, I'm just almost 2 years on from that, so obviously I've developed more as an artist, but there's still so many that I'm really proud of as well. So really stoked with it.
Well, that was the next question in my mind. From beginning this huge project to completing at least the shooting aspect of it, how much did your style change in terms of shooting and editing?
Editing, I think you can see a big difference. Like some of the stuff, like I really, really changed. My grading technique changed a lot. I just, got a lot of new different grades. But style-wise, it's still, I think it's still me from start to finish. I'll just definitely say, just the grading you can see when
color grading. Do you mean
color grading? So I'm just trying to give an example. Like an early one's obviously Enfer and Daniel Merriweather, which I used to do a lot of black and white.
Yeah.
And when I finished, I was doing way more color, and now I'm doing a lot more color than when I used to kind of first start. I used to just do so much black and white, but now it was really. You see it more with shot. I'm just trying to think what's a good example in the book. Maybe the Chance Waters shot, or the shot with Cursor, even the shot Brad Strutt. Like the more colourful ones, you can definitely see there's it's just a bit different in the grading. It's less contrasty, more range with the highlights probably, and just a little bit different. But
okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that's your style changing, or kind of the trends changing? Because I know a couple of years ago, that's just what photos looked like. That's just what we did. A little bit more, I guess you could say, like gritty, a little bit more contrasty. Whereas
totally
the visco, like the film emulation thing, has been really big over the last 6 to 12 months. Or do you think it's a combination of the two, your style and also your tastes?
I think definitely a combination of the two. You're looking at other people's work, you're looking at stuff that you like, that you're inspired by, and I definitely noticed with my live work, the style has completely changed to what I think now is kind of my signature style. Back in the day, I was way more contrasty, and I was pushing clarity super high and stuff like that, whereas I kind of don't do that as much now.
Yeah.
And now I hardly do black and whites. Like I used to do so many black and whites, but it's now only if some photos you see that are just meant to be black and white, and like photographers know that. Like, but now it's like I'll generally start with a color grade, and then be like, maybe it could be black and white. So I definitely find myself now doing way more color stuff.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I tend to be very comfortable with colour. It sort of has to be something special already to make it a black and white, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, like I said, you definitely see it when you that's definitely black and white. I was actually, I'm just doing some lessons with a friend of mine at the moment, and I was teaching her just with some photos she's taken, and I would look at it and go, that to me is a black and white shot. Like there's just elements of that stand out straight away. And then when I showed her that, she's like, wow, like, how do you see that? I guess we just see that as photographers. But, I just think the some really, like that kind of more faded colour stuff looks really lovely, more cinematic kind of styles. And, it's definitely what I like to play around with more now.
How important is editing? Because a lot of us as photographers, we kind of bang on about being able to compose and have the eye and all that traditional photography stuff.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, if you can't edit, you've just got nothing.
Yeah, 100%. I think whenever I show people the before and after, they're quite blown away.
Yeah.
Because I think my shots are quite heavily processed.
Yeah.
So when I say heavily processed, it's more a style thing. It's like not.
You're not trying to change what's there.
Exactly. And it's, I've always been really strong on the composition tip. Like I was listening to your podcast with Jared the other week, and really similar in that, use a lot of negative space and that sort of stuff. Have always gravitated towards that style. So yeah, and then it's all about getting that color grade right. And it's, once you've got your kind of style, there's, I kind of use a preset that I've kind of found generally on most of my live stuff. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But there's always a similar feel. Like, I know that people say when they see my live stuff, generally they know that it's mine now.
Sure, yeah,
which is great. Which is like, that's the point.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. And also I've started to see a lot of people copying it too, which is annoying. But it just means I need to do something different. So,
yeah.
I think it's absolutely paramount. Like, I know that the photos that, like, when I see other photographers that have shot the same gig, and I can see they haven't spent time in post. Like, that's where the time spent for me. Getting it right. And even with you might have a preset, but you don't just apply that to all. Like, every single photo needs to be tweaked.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah.
And it's like, you have to get that, like, it's the base, but then every shot needs to be tweaked. And then usually, not always, but if there's, those one or two wow shots, then I will do a little bit in Photoshop just to make them pop a little bit more. But generally speaking, it's kind of all Lightroom stuff. And but yeah, I'll spend a lot of time getting that grade right and making sure it looks as good as it can, and also looks different than everyone else shooting. It was that's something Jared said the same thing, and I so resonated with it. I'll always go to the other side. Where photographers are bunched on one side, I'm on the other side. Like, I don't want the same shot as everyone else. Like, that was something that really resonated when he said that. I'm like, I do that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just, always trying to get just a completely different shot than I know that the majority of people that were there were going to get. And there was also some other really great things he said about, uploading and tagging artists and stuff like that, to get your photos seen. Like, that's, trying to get your photos up as quick as possible. Like, if I could give one recommendation to photographers, like, don't sit on your photos for 2 weeks. No one gives a shit about the gig 2 weeks later.
Yeah, I've learned that the hard way. You're absolutely right.
Oh my God. I've seen, like, people that shoot in my genre, there's a couple of, a month later, I'm like, what are you doing? Nobody cares about that show anymore.
Yeah. There's also something to be said about after sort of the next day or two, you just sort of don't even want to look at them. You don't even want to edit them anymore.
Who cares? Yeah, totally.
I just mean, like, from your perspective, like,
you don't. No, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't you be bothered? Like, it's out of sight, out of mind almost. But yeah, if you want an artist to post your shot, which is obviously the most beneficial for your socials and stuff like that, if they do tag you, which would be nice. But get it up super quick. You want it to be the first shot they see and the best. So that's the trick. So I've had really good luck with that as well. So just
fantastic.
If you can do it that night, I'm a bit of a nana, so if I can't do it that night, I'll get up super early. It's like, you just get them out before 9 the next morning or whatever, and just make sure they've seen them and it's still fresh in their mind and stuff like that. But yeah.
Okay. Do you do most of this over Instagram as well?
Yeah, totally. Over Instagram and Twitter. Twitter's really great. Just for an artist to be retweeting your stuff and I'll just get a lot of new followers over that. So I'll usually tweet it first. Okay. And then I'll Instagram. I'm a big fan of Twitter. I've built so much of my business via Twitter. I think specifically for hip hop, it's really big with that genre in Australia and internationally.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I really like Twitter as well, and it's what I use most these days above Instagram and Facebook and everything. But I think it's really interesting the way that Australia has been, like, sort of so late on the Twitter bandwagon, and also, if you've got a reason to tweet, like, if you've got a following, if you're an artist or whatever, it's great. But I feel like so much of the general population doesn't use Twitter in Australia. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, they don't really get it.
Like, yeah, exactly.
They'll be like, I don't know what to tweet about. It's like, you just tweet anything, like tweet what you're doing right now, whatever. Once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. And like I said, for me, I believe like my career was built via Twitter. Like when I first started shooting in the genre of hip hop, all the guys in Australia are on it, and just not even just from a perspective of seeing who's talking to who are the artists performing, like just that stuff, like even from an observational point of view, getting to know personalities and stuff like that, like it's been hugely powerful for me, so I highly recommend it.
It's like listening in on other people's conversations, really.
Yeah, and then you get to see who's friends with who, like who's going to what gig, like who's feeling what artist at the moment. Like if there's a new artist, to try and see who's going to kind of pop off next and stuff like that. Like, for that stuff, it's awesome.
Yeah, I guess the other cool thing is the fact that we were saying just before that the kind of general population hasn't got onto it yet. That should be even more incentive to get onto it, because that means that it'd be less cluttered than your Facebook or your Instagram. You can reach out to those sort of people, and it's so easy to tweet someone back.
Oh my God. Can I just say, you were talking before, actually, we didn't even really cover this, but how you get to shoot with bigger artists. Do you know how many shoots I've got via Twitter?
Is that right?
100%. Like,
fantastic.
Because I'll shoot a gig of an artist, they'll see a photo, they'll retweet it, they'll start following me. You've got direct access to that artist. So not that I think you should ever take advantage of that, like don't spam them, but if there's an opportunity, like when I went to New York, I just hit dudes up. I'm like, Pharaoh, I'm in your city, like want to work? And he's like, yeah, I'm down. Like,
fantastic.
There's just been quite a few examples. There's a couple which I won't name because they didn't happen, but there was a couple of really, really big names that followed me that were down, and then I actually left a day early and didn't get to shoot with them. But it's a shame. But but just as an example, like it is direct access. Even if they're not following you, you have direct access to them. It's not like Facebook. Like Facebook, they would get 1 million messages, through their page. Like Twitter's different. Like, and I feel like, especially the international artists, they actually do read their tweets, and they read. I've seen it. Like I've seen it when they're in front of me. Like they'll read, hey, look at this tweet that I got or whatever. So definitely take advantage of having that direct contact with artists and not having to go through management all the time. And big advantage.
Okay, I really like that. I like Twitter as well, and I'm going to use it more now because of this conversation.
Yeah, totally. Totally. And some of the other bigger shoots have come through friends or, really great contacts. M Phases, for example, he put me in contact with Talib Kweli, and another friend of mine put me in contact with Raekwon, and so some of them have come through friends, and in that instance, it's actually really great because it's almost like a cosign of someone that they're cool with, and they're like, oh well, if you think she's cool, then I'll shoot with her, which is how a lot of my shoots in the States had happened. Yeah. But everyone's a little bit different. Sometimes it's direct contact, sometimes it's through a friend. And, you just never know with hip-hop artists, like, you never know that it's going to happen until you're actually there.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, it sounds like Phases has the most amazing network of anyone in Australian hip-hop.
Yeah. And again, he's a really close personal friend of mine. And again, he's so hugely influential in terms of, why I originally got in contact with Nate Flagrant to do the book, because that's his manager. Yeah. He was one of the first people I shot with, so supportive. I think he was one of the first people that pledged for my campaign. Cool. He's just solid dude. I've got so much time for him. And when I went to the States, he just put me in contact with so many people. He's an absolute legend, really, really generous, friend, and has been really generous with his contacts, which is so great.
Oh, that's so fantastic to have someone like that to vouch for you, to have someone like that on your team.
100%. It's just, that's just awesome.
All right, cool. I won't keep you for too much longer, Michelle. I want to be very conscious of your time, but I've got a few more questions for you.
No worries.
Just one more that I forgot to ask about the book, just quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So apart from the initial campaign, is there any sort of upkeep? Is there any ongoing stuff that you have to do to market it?
It's just via, like, I'm just doing all online sales pretty much. I've got it in a few bookstores, but really kind of niche bookstores.
Yeah.
We did a huge campaign when it launched. So we basically produced these little videos for every single artist in the book. So there was like 100 and something videos floating around.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah, and all of the artists posted, and they were so amazing. So there was a lot of work initially, and we did a really big push kind of when it started, did a really big push around Christmas.
Yeah.
And then after that, I really felt like I'd asked so much of the artists. I really needed to just, okay, it's like, I'm just going to stop bothering you now, and it just needs to do its thing.
Okay.
And it's out there, and it's just one of those things that hopefully becomes like a collector's item and is still valuable in, 10 years' time, and people still want it. So, but yeah, there's not too much now. I try and do a post every Wednesday that tells a story about like the kind of behind the scenes of each shoot. So I'll pick a photo and then tell a story.
Yep.
I've been really slack with that lately, so I need to get back on that. I was just thinking about that last night.
Mm-hmm.
Just to kind of keep people interested and generate hopefully a few sales, because they're, that's really cool and I should get the book now. So
okay.
So but yeah, it's pretty low key. So I'm thinking maybe of doing something around the 1 year anniversary of when it dropped, which is kind of mid-August. Okay. So yeah, I'm just thinking about that at the moment.
I'm always so fascinated about photographers that can create new streams of revenue, because music photography is something that we've kind of touched already in the interview, but you can't rely on it completely. Does this sort of thing, does a book like Rise, does that still tick over? Do you get hits and new sales, still happening a year down the track? Or
it's certainly not, like, for the first few months, yes, and it was steady, and it was, we were doing discounts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's definitely dropped off now, but that's, I think, just the nature of it's not in your face and people, don't see it and stuff. But, if it's one or two here a week or whatever, that's still great. And hopefully that will continue. It's certainly not huge money now. But yeah, I think I do agree with you. I'm definitely one that's always trying to think outside the box and what else can we do. And because it's really tricky. It's like if you're just focusing on music, it's very, very hard to make that your only thing. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot of physical stock? Do you have a lot of units sitting around, or is it
there's quite a few. I think we had 2,500 printed.
Wow.
And I haven't done the count, but I would imagine there's still got to be like 800 or so lying around. Okay. We've got them in storage. I don't know the exact number. I don't know if it's 1,000 or I haven't done a count recently. But yeah, we definitely, like, the first few days, like, we sent out, like, because we sent out one to every artist as well as all of the pre-orders and all of the possible campaigns, and that was like 600 or something, like, in the first day or two, which was hectic. Like, we literally, like, did that overnight. We did an all-nighter, and I'd had this stupid idea, but so for everyone that pre-ordered and everyone that was a possible campaign and all of the artists, I actually individually wrapped them all in this black tissue paper, and it had this like Rise sticker and like it looked amazing. But like the people that helped me, so Nate and his girlfriend Chelsea and my other friend Emma, like they wanted to kill me. They're
my goodness.
And I'm like, yeah, but look how pretty. They're like, who cares how pretty it looks? We are here.
Some serious man hours went into that, I'm sure.
I know, but everyone commented on how beautifully it was packaged, so it was good. But
fantastic. Well, it sounds like you've moved a whole lot of it. If you've only got 800 left,
I think maybe 1,000. I might be overstating a little bit, but that's still a lot of books.
That's a lot of books. Yeah.
But I mean, like, there's still a lot of books in storage too. So.
Oh no. Well, it sounds like you've done very, very well. Did you you went the self-publishing route. Did you look at other ways to get it made? Did it make sense to, in retrospect, if you were to do it again, did it make sense to get them produced in bulk like this? Or are there companies that could, do the fulfillments in-house, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, I actually don't even know the answer to that question. I pretty much just looked into self-publishing.
Okay.
The reason that I did that is that I was concerned if I went through a publisher or something like that, that there would be an element of, I guess, they having a say in content, and I really didn't want that, and I didn't even know if that was the case, but I was just pretty firm on wanting it to be exactly how I wanted it to be.
Your own vision.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't want someone saying, oh, the design shouldn't be like that or whatever. So I really just explored the self-publishing options, and once I decided on that, just went. I'm very decisive. Once I decide, it's like, yep, that's it. Let's go. Like, campaign. So yeah, I didn't explore the other options, to be honest.
Okay. Well, hey, look, it sounds like you had a great base of funders, so you had the luxury to do it that way. So hey, go for it.
Yeah, 100%. And I was so fortunate there was, so many people that were really excited about the idea, and it's amazing. Like, every gig that I'll shoot, someone will, probably, it's usually more than one person, but will say how much they love it and how much they appreciate it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like absolutely amazing. And that sort of stuff was really unexpected.
That's what you live for, right?
Just, for a fan to come up and say, what their favorite photo is, or, it got them through a rough time when they got it for their birthday or something. Like, I've had so many amazing comments, and, people thanking me for my contribution to hip hop and stuff like that. Like, that's mind blowing, that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, I'm just so, so appreciative of that.
Fantastic. Well, if someone wants to pick up a copy or just have a look, where can they find them? Are they on merch tables, or where can we send people to have a look?
So, like I said, they're in each state. They're in different stores, and I don't know any of the store names except for the one in Melbourne, and it's called Northside Records. You can get a copy there.
Online?
Online, you can go to risemgh.com, and there's details on the book, and there's different merch options you can get there too. There's a poster and a t-shirt that you can get too.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll make sure to link all that up in the show notes so no one mistakes the spelling or anything.
Yeah, awesome.
Are there many people in Australia trying to do what you're trying to do?
Do you mean with the book or just with
largely the hip-hop photos, but the whole deal, the book's included, I guess.
The only other book that I really know of, again, is Kane's book, and he was really inspiring to go down the self-publishing route.
Was that the Soundwave one?
Yeah, the Soundwave one, obviously, after I spoke to him, I was like, God, I'm never going to be able to do this. But he, gave me some great tips, and like I said, was just really inspiring, and knowing that you can do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really know if anyone else really trying to do something like that. It is incredibly difficult. Like, you need to devote a large chunk of your time to it. So it isn't something that, you can just take half-assed sort of thing. Like, you really need to be really dedicated to it and be working on it all. And it's not just you. Like, there's so many other elements too. Like, I had Nate, who was a great project partner. He's got a girl in his office who just she wrote so much like copy stuff. Like, also because I got a grant to do the tour, so like she wrote all the grant stuff. Like, just like things you don't even think about, but like I can't write. Like, there's certain grant speak that you need to write. Like, and she's really great like that. She's been amazing. But, like I had a publicist, like so many different people that, and obviously Jeremy Grey Ghost, who designed it all.
Yep.
There's so many parts to the picture that, it's not kind of just a solo effort, and you do need a really solid team around you, and it's months and months and months and months of work. So, but yeah, like, it's not to say that no one else could do it, because it's 100% possible. It's just, I think I underestimated the amount of work when I said I was going to do a book.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have been in the same boat.
Yeah. And then you're halfway through like, what have I done?
No, I think that's very admirable. It's jumping off the cliff and learning how to fly on the way down.
Well, that's pretty much what I've done my whole life. And I think I'm very much about, really challenging myself and setting goals that most people would think are unattainable, and, then proving them wrong. So it's kind of what drives me, to be honest.
Michelle, did you study after school?
I did. I did a degree in human movement, which is a sports science degree.
Interesting.
Yes, I know. And I actually worked in sports marketing for quite a few years. I worked for the National Basketball League.
Oh, cool.
The marketing coordinator. That was my first job out of uni.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre. And then I actually worked in AFL for 4 years. So I went to Melbourne Football Club and worked in marketing then. And then I actually got promoted and started working in events, and that's how I became an event manager.
Yeah.
So originally I was in sports marketing, and sport was always my life. I'm a basketballer, and
I'm a basketball too.
Yeah. So when I first started working at the NBL at 21, which was in the year, this is going to show my age, year 1999.
Yeah.
I think, or 2000, maybe 2000. It was a dream come true. Like all these guys that I absolutely loved. Like I've been watching the NBL as such a huge fan.
That would have been sort of like the peak of the NBL in those years, I would think.
Totally. It literally was the peak. It went to shit not long after that, to be honest. But it was. And for me, I think that's also why I deal with kind of meeting, people that I've adored for so long, because I had to do it at such a young age. And you can't show that you're a huge fan. And then you kind of learn that they're just people, and they're just, you become friends with them, and they're just dudes. And I've always just taken that on board. It's just like, it doesn't matter who the person is. If you just treat them like another person, like, you don't get that whole starstruck thing. They actually really respond well to that. And you get a lot of respect. That's for sure.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. I was curious to know, you mentioned you had someone to write your copy and you had a publicist and stuff, and you just talk like a marketer, and I've come from a marketing background at uni, so I appreciate hearing that from another photographer.
Yeah. And to be honest, it's really, really helped with my business, having that really solid background. And even event management, for example, like event management, logistics, like working that sort of stuff, and then transferring that into doing a project like a book, like it's directly relatable. Like it is making a list and ticking it off, doing timelines, doing budgets, like all that stuff really, really helped. And I think that's why I guess, it kind of worked as well as it did, because I was really familiar with working with really large scale projects.
Yeah, right. Interesting. Okay, well, that's just about all I've got for you today.
Yay.
What's getting you excited creatively at the moment?
Like I said, I'm working on this new project and just being a little bit more conceptual. So with this particular project I'm working on with a videographer as well. So she's going to be doing a film aspect to what I'm shooting. She's actually calling me right now. So, but yeah, she's really conceptual. So she is really inspiring, really conceptual, and is actually pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit for these particular shoots. So I'm really stoked about that.
Fantastic.
So that's what I'm really excited about at the moment.
Excellent. And last of all, where can we send people to connect with you or check out your stuff?
So michellegracehunter.com is my website.
Yep.
And then on Twitter and Instagram, I'm just at Michelle G Hunder.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook is Michelle Grace Hunder Photography. So yeah.
Again, I'll link up all the spelling and stuff in the show notes. Yeah. But if you're listening to this and you've enjoyed it, by all means, reach out. Send a tweet to MGH, tell her you love the show, and I'm sure she'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. It was really fun.
Michelle, it's absolutely my pleasure. I really appreciate your valuable knowledge and time. We'll have to do an update sometime in the future.
That would be great. I'd love to.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
and have a great day.
Thank you.
See you, Michelle. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for sticking with this one until the very end. It's been another long one, almost an hour and a half, but I think there's a lot of value packed in there. Michelle has a lot to say. She's very hardworking and very honest, which I really appreciate. If you'd like to get in contact with her, head over to the show notes page, bigpantsphoto.com/podcast. All her details are on there, and if you leave a comment below the post, I'll make sure that it gets to her. While you're on the website, I would definitely say check out the free ebook I have available on there. It's exactly what you need to take killer band promos, and you can do it really cheaply. It's less than $130 for all the gear outlined in the book. If you enjoyed this episode and would love to help out the show, you can do so by leaving me an honest review on iTunes. It only takes a couple of seconds of your time and it really helps this show get ranked and seen and listened to by people that could really use and enjoy this content. Thanks again for listening. I really appreciate you. This podcast is still early days, so you're all my OGs, my original gangsters. Thank you for being involved this early on. So for now, happy shooting, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.